Hi guys, and welcome to this other video. So I hope all you guys are doing great. So today in our series of video dedicated to practical cases for FortiGate NSE 4 exams. So today we are doing the lab on FortiGate High Availability. So in the previous video we talked about FortiGate High Availability. So we discussed about some key concepts regarding the FortiGate. We explain how the FortiGate HA works. So the HA mode also. So we talk about prerequisites, so hardware and software, and also networking configuration. We talk also about the interfaces. So we explain the difference between the monitored interface and the heartbeat interfaces. So we also discuss about the FortiGate primary election process. So we thought of the two. We talk about the two election process depending on whether the override setting is enabled or not. So here you have it disabled, and here you have the election process when the override is enabled. So today in this video we are going to jump into our lab where we are going to deploy our FortiGate devices in HA mode. So on our GNS3 we have these two FortiGate devices where we are going to configure port 1 and port 2 as monitored link, and port 3 and 4 are the heartbeat links. So we are going to put these two FortiGate devices in a HA cluster. Then we'll create a GSCP. So I have some tasks here that I've prepared for this activity. So that's why we're going to configure the HA. So we're going to put the two devices in active passive mode. Then we are going to understand what we will call management IPs. So during the implementation of the FortiGate HA cluster, we'll have a new IP for the cluster. So we'll discuss about that during the activity. As I said, we'll create a DHCP server so that from here we'll provide these devices with IP addresses from the DHCP server, and we'll see how the traffic is routed from these devices to the internet. So either going through this FortiGate or either through this one. Then in task 2, we'll do we'll simulate some failover. So we'll see how to disconnect some monitored interface and change some priority. Then we'll see how the new election process will run, and we'll see which FortiGate becomes the primary. And we'll also check in the FortiGate to see if the GSP settings were maintained, and also check if the logs were also maintained. So in task 3, we are going to talk about the management interfaces. So you need to understand that we explained this in the previous video. So in the previous video, we explained we talk about the management IP. So as I said, initially when you configure FortiGate devices, each device comes with its IP address. So after you put them together in the HA cluster, there is a new IP that is created for the cluster, and the initial IPs that each FortiGate device had, that IP will not be available to connect for individual FortiGate management, except if you configure what we call here as manage IP, reserve IP for management. So we'll see how to configure this. In task 4, we are going to switch the HA mode. So the HA mode, as we said, we'll start with active passive. Then here in task 4, we'll see how to switch from active passive to active active. Then from here, we'll also talk about load balancing, and also check in statistics to see how the traffic load is being shared between the two devices. As here in active passive, there is only one of the FortiGate that is carrying all the traffic, and here in the active active, both of them will be sharing the traffic, sharing the load of the traffic. So here after that, we'll go on task 5, we'll be enabling the override. So we explained about override in the previous video. So the link to that video is in the description of this other video. So I I recommend you to play the previous video so that you have a better understanding of all the concepts that we are going to see in this video. So we will enable override on task 5. Then we'll see how to play with the priorities to see how the election process goes. Then at task 6, we'll see how to add a third firewall on our HA cluster, and we'll monitor in the CLI to see the election process, and see how the HA we'll see how the HA cluster will deal with 3 FortiGate devices. So guys, without wasting time, let's jump directly to our GNS3 environment. So here, as I said, on our GNS3 environment, I have the same diagram here. So we have FortiGate A here that has this IP address 192.168.2.135, and the FortiGate B has 2.134. So let's jump directly on each FortiGate device to put in place the HA cluster. So here I'm connected on the FortiGate A. So this FortiGate A. So under FortiGate, you go under systems, then systems here you select HA. So from HA here, you will select the mode. So by default, each FortiGate is working on individually on standby or standalone mode. So from here, as I said, we are going to start with active passive. So you select the mode. We keep the same priority 123, 128. So here I'm going to provide a name. So I'll call this HA group. So here I'm going to change the password. So the password that I'm putting here is the same that I will provide. The information that I'm putting here, the group name and the password, are the same information that I will need to provide to each FortiGate that will be joining this cluster. So here I'll check here for session pickup. So session pickup is the setting that will let your FortiGate devices to maintain the session when there is a failover, so that user they will not see that there was a failover on the network. So here under monitor interfaces, so here, as I said, on my FortiGate or my diagram here, we have each FortiGate has four ports that are actually connected. So I have port 1, port 2, which are monitored ports, and port 3 and port 4 are heartbeat links. So here in our settings, we are going to do the same. So here in the monitored interfaces, here I'm going to select port 1 and port 2 as monitored interfaces. Then for heartbeat interfaces, I'm selecting port 3 and port 4. So also here, as we said in the previous video, it is always recommended to have at least two heartbeat interfaces. So also on the heartbeat interfaces, you can also decide which one will be prioritized, which one is going to lead the communication. So here, just simply need to increase the value of the one that you want, the port that you want to work as the main interface for heartbeat communication. So here I'm putting port 1 as the main interface. So here is where you configure what we call management interface reservation. So as I said, for now, this FortiGate has an IP of 2.135, but you will see after this cluster is built, you will see we will not have access to this IP anymore. So as I said, we'll be doing this task we'll be doing management IPs on task 3. So for now, I will leave. For now, I'm letting this like this. So all is good so far. So I'm just hitting OK from here. So I will jump now on the second FortiGate. So here from the second FortiGate, I'll do the same. So active, passive, same priority. HA group. Keep the same password. Session pickup, monitored interfaces, the same. And heartbeat interfaces, also the same. As we said in the previous video, you need to make sure that every device that is taking part to the HA cluster, they need to have the same the same device model, the same firmware version, the same hardware configuration. So if you are adding a device that does not match the same settings or the same default settings as the devices that are already in the cluster, then that device will not be able to join the cluster. So these two FortiGate devices are running the same firmware OS, and they have the same hardware settings configurations. So here also I'm putting this port 3 as the main interface for heartbeat communication. So all is good from here. So I can hit OK. So after some few minutes or few seconds, actually the two devices are in the FortiGate, are actually in the FCP process. FCP is FortiGate clustering protocol. So the FCP is putting the devices together, proceeding to the election of the primary. So as you can see from here, the election was done, and from here already you can see, if I just refresh here, so you will see now from here, normally when the devices will join a cluster, normally this IP address will not be accessible anymore, and a new IP address will be created for the cluster. So we'll just give a few seconds. If I check here on FortiGate A, okay, see, you can see now FortiGate A is not it's like not reachable. So what I will do now is simply to jump on my GNS 3. So from here I will go on the console of my FortiGate A. Let's say I just go double click on it. So from here, so I can see that from the command line here, I can already observe that there is like some election process that is actually ongoing. So there is a clustering that is actually FCP actually doing some synchronization. So you can see that secondary external files are not in sync with the primary. So actually there is some sync that is actually ongoing. So we'll just give a few seconds. Okay, so you can see now that all the two FortiGate devices are not reachable. So lost connection to FortiGate. So what I'm going to do, attempting to reconnect. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going again here. So from here, what I'll try to do, So from here, what I'm going to do is get system interface physical. So now you see from here, now I'm getting a new IP address for the cluster. So the cluster new IP address now is 192.168.2.120. So you saw here that the FortiGate A has the IP address of 2.135. The FortiGate B had the IP of 2.134. So now you have a new IP address. So this is 192.168.2.120. Okay, so this is now the IP address of the cluster. Okay, so now you see if I go here under settings and HA, so you see now from here I have information about the HA cluster. So here you see the two devices are synchronized, they both have the same priority. So FortiGate B is actually the primary. So these are the serial number, this is the system uptime, and this is the number of sessions that actually been handled by each of the FortiGates. So you see now that this one is the primary. So to understand or to check to know why this one was elected as the primary, so remember in the previous video we talked about election process. So the election process when override is disabled, so by default when you use you have a brand new FortiGate which has a default configuration, default settings, the override setting is not enabled, so it's disabled. And this is the criteria. These are the criteria or the order of criteria that are evaluated by the FortiGate election process to designate which of the FortiGate is going to be the primary and which one is going to be the secondary. So now if you need to check, actually we know FortiGate B has been elected as the primary. So if you want to double check to know why it was selected, which of these criteria were used to designate FortiGate B as the primary, you can simply go in command line. From here in command line you can use this command. So I forgot to mention that in this slide I've also prepared all the command lines that we are going to use during these 6 activities. So these are the different command lines that we are going to use. So if you need them, you have an overview of them here. So the command that we are going to use actually is get system HA status. So from here I'll simply hit get system HA status. So with this command you have information regarding actually the mode in which the HA is actually working. So we are working in AP, so active passive. So you have information about uptime. Here is the information that we are looking for. So primary selected. Using. So this is the criteria that was used to select the primary. So at this time, so we have information about the time, the serial number also. So they say this serial number, the device that have this serial number is selected as the primary because its serial number is larger than the peer member which has this other serial number. So you can see that if we go back again here on our slides concerning this election process, you see that finally here the different criteria were not able to be it was not sufficient to decide on the primary. So we started with monitored interfaces. Both devices have same number of monitored interfaces, that's 2. HA uptime. So we power on the 2 devices at approximately the same time. So that's why we have here system uptime 35 minutes 9 seconds and 35 minutes 6 seconds. So you remember we explained in the last video that for this HA uptime to be considered, we need to make sure that the time difference between the devices is more than 300 seconds. So as you can see here, we don't have a difference of 300 seconds. So that's why this criteria was not used for the election, was not sufficient to decide which one is the primary. So next criteria was the priority. So again, on the priority, we maintain them as default 128. So that's why finally the only criteria that was able to decide was the serial number, because at least the serial number is different for each device. So that is why the serial number was used here for election for the primary election decision making. So here you also have information about the devices, they are in sync, system usage stats. So you also have information here about CPU and memory. You have here the devices that are actually in the heartbeat devices statistics. So you have these 2 ports that are connected as heartbeat devices, and below you have monitored devices. Monitored devices are actually connected on port 1 and port 2 for both equipments. And here below you see you have the primary FortiGate, which is FortiGate A or FortiGate B. You have its index, and you have for secondary, that is FortiGate A with index 1. So from here, what we need to do next was, I guess it was putting in place. So we understand the management interfaces. Okay, for management interfaces, as we said previously, you see actually the IP addresses that we initially had for each device, actually we can no more connect with the IP devices, the IP addresses. So for now, you cannot manage each device individually. You need to manage the cluster. You need to manage the cluster going through the IP address of the cluster. So you see now from this cluster, as FortiGate B is the primary, with the cluster I'm actually connected like I'm connected to FortiGate B. So that's it for management interface. So we'll see about management IP in task 3. So here what we need to do is, okay, we are going to create a DHCP server on the primary, then create some traffic and logs. Okay, so let's jump. We need to do that for this. Okay, so let's jump here. We'll go on interface, network interfaces. So actually here, FortiGate B is the primary. So port 2 is connected to these devices. These devices are connected to port 2 anyway for each of the FortiGate device. So what I'm going to do now is from here, I'm going to select port 2. So quickly on port 2, role, just put it LAN, give an IP address. Then I'll enable DHCP here. Just enabling this DHCP. Okay, so let's just say we are going from 10 to 259. Okay, so just taking it default like this, then I'll hit OK. Next, I'll click a static route. So we are creating a device so that we are creating a DHCP server so that these devices can get an IP address, and we'll try to see how they are accessing the internet. So from here, static route, new. So every traffic will go through port 1. So that's it. So port 1, because for each of these devices, the port 1 is the port that leads to the internet. So next, what we are going to do is we are going to create a firewall policy. So here, firewall policy, create new, simple, port 2 to internet. So just keep it simple like this. So incoming is port 2, outgoing is port 1, source traffic, we just go with all, destination also all, services also all. So we are allowing this traffic, no security profiles here. Yeah. Then we can also decide to lock all the traffic, allow traffic. So I'll hit OK. So all is set. So here on my GNS3, all I need to do, I'll start with web10. So from the web10, all I need to do is to enable DHCP on the web10. So you just edit the web10 and you come here and uncomment these two lines, auto ETH0 and the iFace ETH0 iNet DHCP. So you just uncomment these two lines. Then all you need to do now is just to start the device. So normally this will take like a few seconds to power on the web10. So it's not will not take that much. So let me just double click on it. So okay, I can double click here on web10. I'll go on that terminal. So from here I'll just hit if config. Okay, our DHCP server is working fine, so we are getting an IP address. So now we need to check access to internet. So let's just check Reddit. What else? YouTube. What else? Yeah. Okay, as you can see, we have access to the internet. So actually, internet is working fine on this device. Okay, so what we need to do now is we are going to create some traffic, as we said here in. We're going to on the primary create some traffic and check logs. Okay, so if I want to check logs, just right click and show matching logs. Okay, so we can see that we have some logs for some seconds now. So it's been a few seconds while we have some logs now. So what I'm going to do, we are going to jump on task 2, which is to simulate failover. So to simulate failover, as we said in the previous video, we can either simulate failover with manually disabling a link, like maybe you have a network issue on a particular segment of your network. So let's say, for example, so this is FortiGate B it is the primary for now. So what I'm going to do is, let's just say I'm deleting this link. So just say this link has an issue. So now, because of the election process, remember that in the election process, the FortiGate device that has the higher number of operating or operational uplink will become the primary. So normally here I'm expecting this one to become the primary because it has 2 monitored link, while this one has only 1. So we'll just connect again on our FortiGate. Oh, as you can see, we were disconnected here. So if I reconnect on the cluster, normally here, if I go under system HA, you will see now that on the primary, on the cluster, FortiGate A is now the primary. So for obvious reason, as I explained, it's because it has the higher number of monitored interfaces actually. As you can see, we are actually connected on FortiGate A. So we can also check if traffic is still ongoing here on our web 10. So I'll just try to access anything. World Cup, don't know. World Cup 2026. So normally we should still have access to internet, right? Okay, so I can see we still have access to internet right now. So even though we had a failover, we still have access to internet. But now other information that I wanted to double check is that actually if you go on the firewall here and you check for matching logs, so show matching logs, you will see that here on the FortiGate A, these are the matching logs. So these logs are recent logs. So if you see the number of logs here, you have 116 logs. But if you check here on FortiGate, the previous FortiGate, which is FortiGate B, you see that FortiGate B had 170 logs, and this was 2 minutes ago. So what I wanted to make you guys understand here is that when you are doing failover, when there is failover operating, there are some information that are not automatically synced from the previous primary to the secondary, so to the one that is becoming the primary. So for example, you see the logs that were saved by FortiGate B, we don't have those logs on FortiGate A. So on FortiGate A here, we are like receiving new logs that are not stored, that we are actually getting new logs from the actual traffic. It means if you don't have like a FortiGate FortiAnalyzer on your network, you might lost or you might not get access to some logs on your current FortiGate, except if you want to go on the other FortiGate on the FortiGate that was previously the primary. As you see, this is it. But you can see that for DHCP server, for example, if I go here, we are connected on FortiGate A. If I go here on interfaces, and you see now on FortiGate A, the DHCP server settings were replicated directly to FortiGate B, to FortiGate A. Remember that the settings was made on FortiGate B while it was still the primary. So that information was replicated directly to the FortiGate A. Okay, so let's jump back to our task. So here we've checked in CLI to see reason for new elected. Okay, so if you want to check to know why this device was elected, as I said, get system HA status. So from here you will see that you have here the information like this one is selected as the primary because the value 0 of link failure, it had 0 as link failure for it had a value of 0 for link failure because actually this device does not have any failed link. So that's the main reason why the device was chosen as the primary. So here you also connect and check the DHCP server. We already done this DHCP server and the logs again. Verify if access to internet is still working. We did this. So all is good so far. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to reconnect the monitor interface. So let's go back again. So we could also instead of breaking down instead of disconnecting this interface, we could also decide, for example, to change the priority, like to change the priority of one of the FortiGates. So we could also come here directly in the system HA. So from here, we could also edit, then change the value of the priority of one of the devices so that this could also trigger failover. So now, without wasting time, let's jump. As you see, as we reconnect the monitored interface. So do you think the election process has changed automatically? Do you think reconnecting the interfaces as it was earlier, do you think this will trigger automatic election? As you can see, for now, election has not been done. We still have FortiGate A as the primary, and you can still check here under get system HA status. So you still see we are still here. It means like we've reconnected the previously disconnected interface, but there is like no process, no election that was actually, no election process is actually ongoing, right? So if, for example, you want to force an election process, so there is like this command that you can type. So here is the command that you need to type if you want to force failover. So you can simply type this command. There are no system HA reset uptime. So we are going to try that. You see, for now, FortiGate A is the primary. So let's just jump here in CLI. There are no system HA reset uptime. So I'll just hit enter. So normally from now there is an election process that is going to happen. That's why you see when I am clicking on refresh, you see it's taking some time to display, because actually as I resetted the uptime, you will see now that the if I go here again under, okay, you see it just disconnected. So if I connect now, because each time that there is an election and there is a new FortiGate that is designated as the primary, you automatically be disconnected from the cluster so that you reconnect again. So it will let you connect directly to the new primary. So if I connect again, you see now that actually on the FortiGate B has become again the primary. And if you check again here, like system get system HA status, you still see now that the election process, the reason why FortiGate BO was chosen as the primary is because its uptime is larger than the peer member. So remember when we type this command, there are no system HA reset uptime. We type this command on the firewall when this FortiGate A was the primary. So typing this command will affect the uptime for the device that is actually the primary. So guys, just to pay attention on something. So we are talking here about the primary and the secondary, and we are also talking about HA uptime. So remember the previous the previous command that we typed was there are no HA reset uptime. So we thought of we did what we did was resetting the uptime on the primary FortiGate device. So now we actually have FortiGate A, which was the primary FortiGate device. Now FortiGate B is the primary device, because the HA uptime of FortiGate A has been resetted. So you pay attention here as we have. I just rebooted the two FortiGate devices. So for now, you see system uptime for each one is 8 minutes 12 for primary and 8 minutes 13 seconds for the secondary, as for now. So what I want you guys to pay attention on the difference between the system uptime and the system HA the HA uptime. So this command here is to reset the HA uptime, which is not the system uptime. So let's double check if I want to check the system uptime for this cluster, for each of the system HA uptime for each of these FortiGate devices. What I need to do is I'll go on command line here, and what I will do here is if I want to display the information regarding individual firewall HA uptime, I can use this command here. Diagnosis sys HA dump. I guess this is sys, not system, sys HA dump by group. So let's try this. So I'll type here diagnose sys HA dump by group. So here you have information regarding the cluster. But what information that we need here is to get this information here about the uptime over the number of time that the FortiGate device was resetted, right? So for now we see uptime reset or reset counter here for FortiGate A. So this one is the FortiGate that is, I guess this is the FortiGate that is actually the primary or the FortiGate A. So FortiGate A is the one that have the serial number that finishes with 4F. So this FortiGate A. So here on the CLI, you see that the FortiGate A, which is this one, uptime for secondary FortiGate here is 1. So for example, now let's say for example if you want for example that the secondary FortiGate should become the primary, right? If you want for example that this secondary FortiGate becomes the primary. So as we said about talking about failover activities here, as we said, we could disconnect some monitor interfaces, we could change priority, we could even restart some one of the FortiGate so that each HA time could be resetted. So the other action that we saw that we could do to simulate failover or to force failover was to type this command, diagnosis HA reset uptime. So it means you can reset the failover you can reset the HA uptime for a particular device without necessarily disconnecting monitored interface or rebooting or completely rebooting the device, right? You just simply type this command, and this command you need to type it on the device for which you need to reset the uptime. Let's say for example here I want this secondary device to become the primary. So instead of disconnecting any device or disconnecting any port or rebooting FortiGate B, what I can simply do here is I can simply type reset uptime, reset the system HA uptime for the primary. So let's try it again from here. So what I'll do is diagnosis HA reset uptime. So you see this command, and I'm typing it on FortiGate B as FortiGate B is actually the primary. So when resetting the uptime, we'll come after and type this same command here again. Then you will monitor and see the differences on the value that we have here. So let's hit enter. Okay, so immediately as we hit enter, that FortiGate device, a new election process is being done, and now we are disconnected because probably the new the cluster will now connect to the new FortiGate device, which is probably FortiGate A. Okay, as mentioned, so now we are actually connected on the new FortiGate device, which is the FortiGate A. So FortiGate A has become now the primary. And you see here the system uptime still have the difference of 1 second. So you see again the difference is the system uptime is the time since when the FortiGate device was powered on. This is not the HA uptime, but the system uptime. So now let's check again for the HA uptime. So here we'll go again with diagnose sys HA done by group. Okay, so now you see now that actually here on the FortiGate F, which is actually the primary FortiGate, you see now that the uptime is mentioning 831 here, whereas the uptime for the secondary is actually 0. And you can see now that the reset counter is showing now 1 for this one and 0 for this one, because for now this is the secondary, or this is the FortiGate device that we resetted the uptime in the previous command, right? So this is why the reset counter shows 1 here. And you see now that this FortiGate has an uptime of 831 seconds. So you see now this is the main difference between the HA, the system uptime, and the HA uptime for each device. So this being said, let's jump directly to task 3. We are going to jump on task 3, which is management IP for each FortiGate device. So here on our FortiGate, so here the previous video we saw this was the initial IP address of one of the FortiGate. This was the IP address of the second FortiGate. So together we'll put them in the HA cluster, and now we have this new IP address that let us access the cluster. As for now, you can see that for the HA settings, we have FortiGate B, which is actually the primary, and FortiGate A is the secondary. So the issue now is that actually we can manage FortiGate B from this cluster interface because FortiGate B is the primary. But we don't have individual IP addresses that we can use to access individually FortiGate A and FortiGate B. Like FortiGate A here, for example, if I try to edit, you see I have limited options here for editing. While on FortiGate A or FortiGate B, if I do edit, here you see I can I can change some settings here and update some information. This is because I'm actually connected on the cluster, and the cluster is actually using FortiGate B as the primary. So the cluster is same like being connected to FortiGate B. So what we are trying to do now is we want to provide individual IP addresses so that even though the two devices are taking part in the HA cluster, we can still connect individually on each FortiGate device. So what we are going to do here is from FortiGate B here, we'll go edit. So from here, we'll go here under management interface reservation. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select which interface here is going to be used as the management interface. So before I do this, I'll go on my GNS3 here. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, the diagram that we have here is still the same. So two monitored port, two heartbeat port. So now I need to use port 10 on each of these FortiGate devices for the management interface. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to connect port 10 to my network. I will do the same on the other FortiGate. So this ideally what is recommended. Always try to use the same port number on each FortiGate for the same purpose. So I'm using port 10. So now I'll come back here on my FortiGate cluster. So from here, I will select this interface port 10. So I'm selecting port 10 here as a monitor or the management interface. So from here now, I'll hit OK. Okay, so actually the information is actually being synced on FortiGate A. So this is why you see here it mentioning not synchronized, because actually the information that updated here is actually being replicated to this one. So this FortiGate A is also going to be using port 10 as the management interface. So what we need to do now is to go under network interfaces. So here under FortiGate, under port 10, what we need to do is we are going to provide an IP address. So here I will go with the previous IP for FortiGate. The initial IP for FortiGate B was 2.134. So I'll give 192.168.2. Let's go with 144. Okay, 144. That will get next. I just want to provide a different IP from the initial IP that we had. So from the initial IP that the device had previously. So what we are going to do, we are also going to enable administrative access, right? Because this IP that we are putting here is the management IP that we are going to use when we want to directly connect individually on FortiGate A. So I'll enable HTTPS, SSH, and HTTP so far. So I'll hit OK. So now we can try to connect with this IP to see if we are going to land on FortiGate B. So here I'll go with 192.168.2.144. Okay. Yeah. So this is working fine. So now you see I'm connected now on the FortiGate B. So you see now actually I'm connected here individually on FortiGate B, while here I'm connected with the cluster IP. So we still look like we are connected on FortiGate B, just because actually FortiGate B is working as the primary. So now that we are connected on FortiGate B, we need to do the same for FortiGate A. So you notice that from here, as I mentioned earlier, if you select FortiGate A and you try to edit, you don't have any information on FortiGate A. You don't have much option much setting to configure on FortiGate A so far. So what we are going to do is we are going to connect on I think one of the tasks that we had here was to see configure management interface on the primary FortiGate. This is done. Test if it is working fine. So HTTP access, administrative access is working fine. So now what we are going to do is to connect to the remote peer from the primary CLI and check if synchronization of the management interface, the reservation setting is working fine. Then you see how to set up IP address on the secondary FortiGate. So as I mentioned in the previous video, I have here the list of command lines that we are actually using, on this activity, right? So for each of each command line, we have it here. So what we are going to do now is we are going to connect on the FortiGate CLI, and we are going to check HA settings, right? We are going to check HA settings, not HA settings. We are going to connect. So the first step was to connect to the CLI of another member. So we'll see how to connect on the CLI of another member. So here what I'm going to do is I'll go on here under the cluster, which is again the FortiGate B. So I'll go here on the CLI on the console. So from here what I'm going to do is execute HA manage. So from here, what you need to do is you need to find the information regarding the index of the peer member of the HA cluster. So to get this information, you just put a question mark. So you just put the question mark, and from here you will see that the index of the subsidiary unit is 1. So from here, what you're going to do is, so check, this is the command line, execute HA manage. Then you need to put the ID of the remote peer, and you put the username to connect to that other FortiGate. So here the ID is 1. Then I know the username to connect on that other workstation is on that other FortiGate firewall is admin. So I'll hit admin. So I'll hit enter. Password, I provide the password. So you see now that I was previously connected on FortiGate B. So now you see I'm actually now on FortiGate A. So from here, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check the HA settings on FortiGate A to make sure that the management IP settings that was previously configured on FortiGate B, it had synchronized also on FortiGate A. So this is the command line that we are going to use on FortiGate A. So I will hit execute config sys. I'll hit config system HA. Then I'll hit show. So when you hit config system HA, so it should be, so this is what should be here. Configure system HA. So this is the command line that we are going to use to check HA settings on the FortiGate A. Config system HA, then show. So from here, you write the config system HA, then we use the show command to see information concerning the HA group on the FortiGate A. So from here, you see the HA name, the set mode, active passive with the password. You see heartbeat devices, port 2, port 3, and port 4. And you also see here now that we have the set HA management status is enabled and the config HA management interface. You see now that the management interface here is port 10. So the information that was configured on FortiGate B synchronized also on FortiGate A. So what we are going to do now is we need to provide an IP address to this port 10, right? So now what we are going to do is we are using this other part, set IP address, setting IP address. So we use this command, configure system interface, edit port, set IP address, then allow administrative access, then closed. So from here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to end, so to go out of the HA. So now I'll go config system interface. So from here, I'm going to hit edit port 10. So I'm editing port 10. So I'll set IP. So the initial IP address of the FortiGate device when it was not yet member of the cluster was 192.168.2.135. So what we are going to give here is 192.168. Yeah, so it should be like this. Now we need to set administrative access. So set allow access. So we'll give HTTPS, HTTP, ping, SSH. So depending on if you've already configured SSL certificate, you should make sure you don't enable HTTP for obvious reason, that security reason that we all know. So for the testing purposes, we are enabling the HTTP. So this is good. Next and end. Okay, so now let's try to access directly from the web browser 192.168.2.145. Okay. Okay. So now you see we are actually connected now on FortiGate A, right? So we are actually now connected on FortiGate A. So you will see that initially these were the two IP addresses for the individual for accessing individual FortiGate devices. When the two devices were put together in the cluster, they now there was a new IP address that was created for the HA availability for the HA cluster. So now we go with task 3, where we can create individual IP addresses which can let us connect directly to each FortiGate device. So guys, this is it for task 3. We've done so far task 1, task 2, and task 3. So because of the length of this video, we are going to end this one with these 3 tasks. Then we'll do the next video where we'll jump in on task 4, where we are going to switch the HA mode. So actually we did active passive mode. So in the task 4, we'll switch from active passive to active. Then we'll check how to see load balancing. Then we'll jump on task 5, which is going to be enable override. So we explain about override. We'll see how to play with priorities, to see how the election process works when we are when the override feature is enabled on each FortiGate device. Then we'll finish with taxes, where we are going to add a third FortiGate firewall on the HA cluster. Then we'll see together how a cluster with 3 FortiGate devices works. So we'll check about election process. We'll check how to simulate different types of failover when we have 3 FortiGate devices in. When we have 3 FortiGate devices or more in HA cluster. So guys, stay tuned. Let's meet in the next video.